Welcome everyone. My name is Ann Vickers. Thank you for joining me today. This is the introduction of the yoga that I'm going to be providing. So in this particular segment, I'm going to show you some props that you might be able to use at home. So understanding that everybody's stuck at home and we're trying to figure out how to get our practices in, our workouts, our yoga, all those types of things. The type of yoga that I provide people is accessible yoga. So it's for everybody, and I provide lots of options, and we use a lot of different props. So I'm going to run through the kind of props that we have, and I'll explain that you only need like one of certain props or two of certain props, and then see what you've got in your house. And then hopefully you will join me in my future videos, and eventually I am going to move on to the Zoom platform, which will be, I think, a lot more friendly from an internet perspective. I am situated out in the country a little bit, and we don't have great internet service. So I'm going to do the absolute best that I can today, which is what we're all trying to do in this new norm that we find ourselves in. So I do gentle, chair, and slow flow. So all of my classes are slow. All of them are about alignment, connecting with your breath, with your body, and really working on all around strength, flexibility, balance, and of course the connection to breath. So to start with, one of the main props that I like to use is a strap. So this happens to be a yoga strap. I like the longer ones, but if you've got an 8-foot, that's probably going to be perfect. Some might have a 6-foot. You might find that just a little bit short, yet still usable to a certain extent. I mean, it just depends on your height. So I'm not a tall person. A 6-foot would work for me. For a taller person, I would say you're going to need an 8, but I recommend a 10 or a 12. You can do a lot more with the longer straps. I'm going to try to keep everything as relatively simple as possible because I understand we're limited with props. So some of you will have a stretchy band. So a stretchy band can be used just like a strap, and I'll demonstrate how these get used. So if you've got a stretchy band, that's perfectly fine. This is simple cotton clothesline. I can tell you that this is not as comfortable because it's thinner and a little bit rougher on the hands. So I would recommend creating a handle, maybe using some duct tape or something like that to create a handle if this is what you have. And I would cut that around a 10 or a 12-foot length. This is a duct tape strap. Yes, you can do all sorts of things with duct tape, and understand we've got cars that are driving around with bumpers being held on with duct tape. So this will hold. I took 2 pieces of duct tape. I did not make this 10 feet long. I was trying to conserve my duct tape so my husband wouldn't get too mad at me. But I laid one down, and then I took the roll and I tried to then place the other one on top to get all along the sticky part as best as possible. You're going to have a few sticky edges, don't worry about it. If it gets too annoying, just take some more duct tape and wrap it around. On the ends, I wrapped around so I've got a little bit more of a handle to hold on to. Now the reason for the strap, let me show you what we're doing so you understand what you're looking for. So you might find that you've got an old belt, or you have some kind of like an old car strap that's woven. So this is what we do with straps. So we lie down on our back. We might place, lost my earpiece. So we're going to have some little flub ups like this along the way. So this is the humor of your day. So we're going to watch me try to keep that into my ear. So we would have a leg up, or we'd have both legs up. We might go wide. This is where you need the length. And we would anchor that tailbone down, having those feet press out,
and being able to pull on the strap a little bit. And then we also take the soles of our feet more together, wrap around, and then we need some strength here in the strap. So we would be able to kind of pull toward the chest and pull down a little bit. So you can see I can do the same thing with a stretchy band. Now when you use the stretchy band, you are actually then using a little bit more of the muscle, so the musculature of your legs or whatever it is that we're working on. So I actually have to press into that strap a little bit more to stretch it. But it's perfectly safe. You can see I'm fine doing that. It's great here. And then I can wrap and draw in. Here's the duct tape strap. So it's comfortable on the foot, plenty of strength to hold on to. I can place both feet in. I can go wide. I can press into it and I can pull on it. It's nice and strong. So I do stick to it. So it will cause a little bit of stickiness, but really we go slow enough, you'll get unstuck and everything's going to be fine. So that's an option. I like this option a lot. And I like it better than the clothesline, frankly. I find this to be harder. It's not comfortable on my foot. I've got very delicate skin. My skin does not like that. And going wide and pressing into it and pulling on it, I feel like I'm going to get a rope burn. So just a few ideas. You can always improve on clothesline by wrapping it with something, making it a little bit wider, a little bit softer, not as harsh on the skin. So you need one strap. Blocks. Now I know a lot of people have blocks and they haven't really known what to do with them. I use blocks a lot. I find them extremely helpful. Blocks help us to reach the floor and they also help us to find our alignment a little bit better and they help us to move. So sometimes we're a little bit tighter through the pelvis, through the hips, and being able to try to bring a foot forward can be hard if our hands are on the floor and we don't have that space. So this is what I use blocks for. We can use books, but you can see my books are not as tall as the tall blocks. So if you're going to try to order something online, I would recommend a couple of blocks. If you have something else in the house that will work, that's great. I've been trying so hard to come up with some ideas of what to use besides books. I can show you. So the books will really flex your muscles to bring them in because you have to have some good sized books and you don't want to have a stack of too many books because they'll get slippery. So you want to make sure that you've got enough foundation for your books. You can see they're sturdy. I can bring my foot forward. I might have to move the books out a little bit more, but I'm able to use them. When we go to move, you'd have to stop and you'd have to swing the books around. So if we were going to do something in the front, you'd have to actually move those books around to the front. So again, you'd be working your muscles a little bit more, and I would recommend unstacking and then restacking. I'm sure we all have books that we're no longer using. I happened to clear out the house last year of a lot of the old dictionaries and thesauruses that we no longer use because everything's online. Those would be ideal books to use. Maybe you have some old encyclopedias. I know I'm probably dating myself at this point, but I used to love the encyclopedias. I don't happen to have any, but I do have old school books and a couple of one's a literature book. Shakespeare, I had great hopes that my daughter would want to read that. She says no. And a history book of my husband's that he does not know that I grabbed. So, books aside, so we can use books. But I really like the blocks. The blocks can be used for all sorts of things. there are a couple of different types of blocks on the market. This is a lightweight block. You can see it's light. This is a cork block, much heavier. Extremely sturdy, great for certain things, not necessary for what we're going to be doing. But if this is all you can get, certainly get the cork blocks. They're going to work great for you. They're just a little bit heavier, so you again would be using more muscle to move them around. These blocks are super light, and yet they're super sturdy. So we use them tall, we use them at the middle height, and we use them low. So I do all sorts of things. I'm going to cut myself off here as I stand for a moment. But we use them to reach the ground. So this is to bring the ground to us. That's the importance of the blocks. I don't subscribe to the idea that everybody has to be able to touch the ground when they're folded over in this posture. So I want to make sure people are comfortable and that all the moves that we do are accessible to where everybody is. So aside from the blocks, another option, if going that low is too much, we use chairs. Now, I use chairs for a whole lot of different things. I also do chair yoga, and I will have some sequences for chair yoga on video. So a chair can be used the same way. So we can do a forward fold with a chair, and we can step back into our plank with a chair. We can come forward into a lunge with a chair, and then we can switch to the other leg. We can come all the way back up and go all the way up. Sorry for cutting my head off. So a chair works great for a lot of different things. I'm also going to do a sequence for using a chair in the office, but you need to have a sturdy chair. So these happen to be old wooden chairs, but they're sturdy. You can see I recommend the metal chairs, like the old Samsonite type chairs that you would get with the card table. Those are perfect. You don't want a wobbly chair. You don't want a chair that's too high. So if I were to sit in this chair, my feet are nice and flat on the floor. If I sit back, they're up a little bit. I would be able to, though, bring that floor to me with a blanket. This is typical for me. I have short legs, but you can see that it fits me fairly well. I can move in the chair, and I can do a lot of different things in the chair and with the chair. So a sturdy chair, not too big, so not too high. Wide is always good, and if it's got a smooth surface, that's great. It does not need to be padded. These just happen to be padded, but it's smooth. The material ones are a little bit harder to use because everything sticks to them. All right, so now moving on to blankets. Blankets are important for when we're working on the floor or getting into our comfortable postures for our centering at the beginning of class, our shavasana at the end of class, any restorative pose, and then when we're sitting. So our pelvis can be tight, and when we sit on blankets, it helps to tilt the pelvis a little bit. We sit forward on it, and then it allows me to sit up taller. So what we work on in yoga is our posture. We work so that we can breathe freely. So we work on posture, we work on that breath. We want to get into the alignment of our body. We're trying to keep our shoulders from drifting forward. We're trying to prevent the slouch, and we're trying to prevent the rolling of the shoulders forward or the pushing of the head forward. So we find blankets that help to situate the pelvis to allow us to grow nice and tall out of our sit bones. We also use blankets and blocks to help when we are tight in the hips and we're sitting. Blocks can go underneath the knees to prevent the pulling here in our hip flexors, and it can help us reach the floor. So my arms, I've got a very long torso for my size. Long torso, so my arms seem kind of short and my legs are short. So when I go to reach the floor, I can get my fingertips there. And that's about it. So I like to use blocks when I want to reach a little bit more to the floor without possibly falling to the floor. So it's all about comfort. I mean, I can do that certainly, but I'm showing you that we don't have to force ourselves into postures just because we say that's what the posture is or that's the move that we're going to be seeking for our next part of the practice. So blocks are used for these types of things. Blankets are also used when we want to have our legs out straight and our hamstrings can be very tight. So we can take blankets and we can roll them and place them underneath the thighs. And again, it helps to bring some ease into the hip flexors and ease into those hamstrings so that we're not feeling like we're pulling so far forward or we're having to hunch because everything's pulling. So we allow ourselves to find the greatest of ease in each of the postures by using props. So types of blankets. This is a very thin fleece blanket. So you can see it's not super big, but when I fold it, it gives me some decent padding, some decent height. I could sit on this just as well as this blanket that I have folded up. So this is one of those Mexican blankets. It's the same height. So if I were to switch and come in here, it's the exact same height. So I'm just finding what I have in the house. I also have some thicker fleece blankets, which are really nice when I want to have a bigger stack or for Shavasana. And we want to have blankets underneath the head when we're lying on the floor for a little bit more comfort. Beach towels. I use beach towels a lot. In fact, for this last year or so, I've been using beach towels in my classes. I have people just bringing beach towels if they don't have any of these towels. I teach at a church and a couple other places that don't have props. So I bring my blocks and my straps, but then they bring blankets. So blankets, I would have 2 or 3 of these, and I think you'll be comfortable, but you can always have 3 or 4 handy. So it's just really finding what works for you. And then we have bolsters. So most people are not going to have bolsters unless you've been practicing yoga for a while and you've invested in a bolster. So this is a bolster. It's nice and thick, it's padded, but it has some nice firmness to it. So we can lie on it in different ways. And we can prop under the knees. But you can also take from your chair or couch some of the throw pillows. So I have a couple throw pillows here that I put a pillowcase on. So I have 2 of these. These are great. So we have this, I was working on this one earlier. So if I have my 2 blocks and I want to sit in what we call our hero pose, our Virasana, and I have them wide like this, and I come on either side to sit on them, it's a nice firm seat. I can ground down into it. My sit bones have a place to go. And I thought, well, if people don't have blocks, what are they going to use? So you can take your books. these are a little on the wide side. Those would not work for me. So I was playing with taking some blankets. You can always kind of roll blankets together, and then you can take one of these pillows. So you'll see if I just sat on this, I would sink down. So you look at the difference of the height. So that was the height that I was on. I sink down here. But if I take one of these throw pillows and I have that corner facing forward and I straddle it so that that corner's coming forward, I kind of push the roll back a little bit, but I have that corner forward, you can see I'm now sitting up a little bit higher. So it's close to where I was. I'm still a little bit lower. I could put the other pillow on and I would find myself at that same height. So you can see how we work with the things that are in the house to just get that height that we want or get the position that we're trying to achieve. Now, I want to go through the chairs just a little bit more. So a lot of my classes, and I'm going to tip this video camera just a little bit so I'm not cutting my head off. When we're working with chairs, I like to have a mat or something that's going to grip the edge, at least 2 of the feet of the chair, so that the chair doesn't go sliding, or have the chair up against the wall on one side, and then have, if I need 2. So when we do our balancing work and strengthening, you can have 1 chair, or if you're working on trying to regain strength to walk better. I work with a lot of people who have had injuries or have conditions and walking's a little bit harder. You can have chairs on either side. So you can have a chair on either side. And it gives you that ability to hold on to something when we go to work on balance. So I do a lot with our balance, and the chairs are there to help hold us so we can work on isolating those muscles and be able to strengthen them and strengthen them safely. So it's about safe yoga that allows everyone to regain flexibility, strengthen, balance, and then we work on the breath. So the breath is what allows us to be calm. It allows us to tie into our strength and our power, and it nourishes our body. So we do all of those things in every practice. On occasion, if there's a lot of crazy stuff going on outside in the world, I won't cover the whole gamut. I'll maybe focus a lot more on the grounding aspect and bringing us down into the earth energy, allowing us to relax, replenish, and bring ourselves back into our parasympathetic nervous system, getting us out of that stress, that fight or flight that we feel, that we've probably been feeling on and off over the last few weeks or so, and maybe even longer. I mean, the threat of this virus has been very real for a lot of people. So I will post videos on Facebook. I will have something for every type of class that I'll be offering. Please feel free to try them out. Invite friends to take a look, especially if you know someone is sitting at home feeling very isolated. I'm going to work very hard on trying to bring people together so we can practice, but we can also reconnect. I am going to use the Zoom platform. I'll provide some information on how to do that. I am available by phone and email, so you can find my information very easily. Most of the people who are going to be joining us are people I've been working with anyway, so you already know how to reach me. And I have no problem walking everyone through individually as necessary. So I wish you all a wonderful remainder of your day, and I wish you well in practicing. Namaste.